Hello everyone, welcome to my videos on secondary 3 mathematics. We're going to be starting with a very important notion. This notion is Pythagorean Theorem. So this is the first theorem you see in secondary 3, and out of everything covered in the entire year, this is one of the most important topics that you have to know going forward. We use this all the time in advanced math. So let's take a look at the theorem. So what Pythagorean theorem tells us is that the sum of the square of the legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. What does that mean? So all that to say, it follows from this fancy formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Okay. So the first thing that's really important to catch about Pythagorean theorem is that it only works on 90-degree triangles. Okay, so it only works on 90-degree triangles. Okay. And we call A and B the legs. A and B, it doesn't matter where you place them, but they're either the left side or the bottom of the triangle. Okay. The side that's very important here is the C, which we call the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Okay, that's just a fancy word for saying that this is the longest side. Okay, so let me put that too. Longest side. Okay, and the hypotenuse, your C, is always located across the 90-degree angle. So wherever the 90-degree angle is, your C, your hypotenuse, is always that opposite side. Okay, and A and B, it doesn't matter their position, you can interchange them. Okay, so A could be put on the bottom and B could be put on the left side, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that Pythagorean theorem, this formula here, only works on 90-degree triangles, on right angle triangles. Okay. Right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. So let's take a look at our first example. So this example says to find the missing side. So we're given a 90-degree triangle, we're given a right angle triangle, and we're given that the left side is 3 centimeters and the bottom is 4 centimeters, and it's asking us to find x. So what you have to catch is that x is located across the 90-degree angle. That means that x is really the hypotenuse. So let's write that down. This is the hypotenuse, aka this is the longest side. This is your C in the formula. So C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Okay. A and B, it doesn't matter what you call them. Let's call the left side A and let's call the right side B. These are your legs. Okay. So if you want to switch and call the bottom A and the left side B, that's all right. That's fine as well. It's gonna work. But what's super important is that you call this longest side C. So C is really your x. That's the value that we're looking for. So now you plug this into your formula. So we have x squared, that's what we're looking for, equals A squared. A is really your 3, so let's replace the A with 3 squared, plus B is really 4 squared. And now we solve for x. So you could have left it as C as well. That's okay, that's fine. I'm going to call it x. So what we get is x squared equals 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 4 squared, which is 4 times 4, which is 16. Okay, so remember your properties from BEDMAS. You have to do exponents first. So we dealt with our exponents. Now the next property we have to do is the addition. So we have x squared, and we do 9 plus 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. Okay. And the last step that we have to do here, and it's always the last step in Pythagorean theorem, you can't forget this step, is we don't want x squared. We're looking for x. How do you get rid of the squared? So the answer is square root. The inverse operation of a square is square root. So we take the square root on both sides. And this is always going to be the last step of Pythagorean theorem. You have to take the square root. So the square root of x squared is x. And when you square root 25, you can do this on your calculator, you get 5. Okay, So the answer is the hypotenuse is 5 centimeters. Okay. What you should do at all times is check, does this make sense? Well, we know that the hypotenuse has to be the longest side. Is 5 bigger than the other two sides? Well, yeah, 5 is bigger than 4 and 5 is bigger than 3. Good. So this is a good answer. This is a possible answer for your hypotenuse. Okay. If you would have gotten like 2 or 3, or you made a mistake somewhere in your calculations, you got an answer that's smaller than either 3 or 4, then you know your answer is wrong. Your answer was wrong. Go back and double check your work. Okay. But this is an example where the hypotenuse is 5. It makes sense, and we're good. Awesome. Let's take a look at more examples. So now let's take a look at this example of Pythagorean theorem. So it's asking us to find the missing side. Let's call it C. We're looking for C. They give us that the bottom is 5 meters and the height of the triangle is 12 meters. So now the first thing you have to check before you use Pythagorean theorem, is it a 90-degree triangle? Good. We have our right angle here, so it's 90-degree triangles. You can use Pythagorean theorem. Now pause the video and try to find this value. Okay. So try to work on the problem on your own and see if you get the same answer as mine. Hopefully at this point you unpause the video and let's do this together. So what you have to catch is that you're looking for the hypotenuse. This is the longest side, right? Because we know that this side here is the side across the 90 degree. Even though my triangle is drawn backwards from the first example, this side is opposite to the 90 degrees, so that's your hypotenuse. That has to be your longest side. Okay, so we use our formula c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then you plug in your a and b. What are your a and b? Well, you could call them whatever you want. Let's call this a, and let's call this b. If you change those letters, don't worry, it's fine, you'll get the same answer. Okay, but what's important is that we're looking for the longest side, the hypotenuse. So we're looking for our c squared. If you want, you could call it x, but in this example here, I'm going to leave it as c. So we're looking for c squared. We know our a is 5, so we'll put 5 squared. And we know our b is 12, so we'll do plus 12 squared. Okay, so c squared equals, we do our exponents first, so you have to figure out what's 5 squared. You use your calculator, you get 25, plus, now what's 12 squared? Use your calculators, you get 144. And now we're ready to add. So we get c squared equals 25 plus 144, and that gives us 169. Don't forget, the last step of Pythagorean theorem is to take the square root on both sides, because you're trying to look for c. You're not looking for c squared, so to find c, you have to take the square root. And the square root of 169, you get 13 meters. This is your answer. Again, does that answer make sense? Well, we found the hypotenuse. We found the longest side. Go back. Is 13 bigger than 12 and 5? Yes, it is. This is a good answer. Awesome. So now we look at the next example. It asks us to find the missing side. So the first thing I notice is that we have our 90-degree triangle. Great. We have our 90 degree. We have to look for our b. This is our b. This is our a. A is 6. And our 10 is our hypotenuse. This is our c, because it's located across the 90 degree. So in order to find b, we have to use our formula. So we set up c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then we replace what we know. So we know our c is 10. So we get 10 squared equals our a is 6 squared. Plus, and b is what we're looking for. So I'll leave it as b squared. Okay. So the next step would be to simplify. So let's solve 10 squared, we get 100, equals, and then 6 squared, we get 36, plus b squared. Our goal is to isolate b squared. We want b squared by itself. Before, when we were solving for c squared, it was already isolated. Now we have to take the extra step of putting our variables on one side and our numbers on the other side. So that means we have to bring the 36 over with the 100. How do we do that? Well, the 36 is being added to b, so we have to subtract by 36 on both sides. So 100 minus 36, we get 64. On this side, 36 minus 36, we get 0. So we're just left with b squared. And the last step of Pythagorean theorem, yep, you guessed it, square root both sides. Because we're not looking for b squared, we're looking for b. So we take the square root of 64 and we get 8 millimeters. Okay. Remember, don't stop there. Always analyze your answer. Does our answer make sense? Well, let's take a look. We got that this side is b, is 8 millimeters. Well, does that make sense? Yes, it does, because our hypotenuse is 10. That has to be the longest side. Since our side we got was b is smaller than the hypotenuse, that's perfect. We're good. Awesome. So let's move on to the next question. So great. In this example, we're asked again to find the missing side. We're given two sides. We have our 90-degree triangle. So what sides do we have? I urge you guys to pause the video, try to solve it yourself, and see if you get the same answer as me. So what I noticed is that 17 is across my 90-degree angle. That means my 17 is my C, that's my largest side. 15 is one of the legs, so we'll call it A, and we're going to be looking for B. I know that I'm anticipating that my answer for B has to be smaller than 17. So let's go ahead and plug in our rule. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Replace your C with 17, so we get 17 squared equals 15 squared plus B squared. 17 squared, we get, let's do this by hand. 7 times 7 is 49, 4. 7 times 1 is 7 plus 4, 11, add the 0. 7 times 1, 7, 1 times 1, 1, 9, 8, 2. So 17 times 17 is 289. You guys could do this on your calculator, you don't have to do it by hand. But we get 289 equals 15 squared. You can do the same thing, solve it, but we get 225 plus b squared. Let me erase to give myself some space. Now once again, we're looking for the b squared. What do we have to do? You have to put all your numbers on the same side and your variables on the other. That means we're going to bring the 225 over on the left side with the 289. How do we do that? By subtracting it over. So subtracting 225 on both sides. When we do this, we subtract 9 minus 5 is 4, 8 minus 2 is 6, 2 minus 2 is 0, so we get 64 equals b squared. Last step again, we don't want b squared, we want b, we have to square root. So we get b equals 8 units. Here there's no units, so I'll put u, and 8 is units. This is the answer. 8 units. So I hope you're getting a hang of it. Keep practicing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome to the next video. In this example, we're going to continue with Pythagorean Theorem, but it's going to be slightly more difficult. So it's not going to be a one-step problem where we have to find the missing side, but we'll have to do one extra step. In this case here, the example is asking us to find the perimeter. We have to find the perimeter of this triangle over here. How do we find the perimeter? Well, you guys have to remember, perimeter is adding up all of the sides. So this is great. We have two sides, but we're missing the bottom. We have to go ahead and find the bottom. How do we do that? Well, we have to notice that we're dealing with a 90-degree triangle, and we have two sides. Right away, Pythagorean theorem should be yelling out. So let's write our formula. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. Okay. Our 90-degree now, notice, is up here. That means the hypotenuse is down here. Don't get confused. It's not the left or the right side. These are the legs. The hypotenuse is always the longest side, which is located across the 90-degree angle. So this is the hypotenuse. We're looking for C, and that means we're given A and B. Okay, so we plug this into our formula. We replace our A with 24, so we have 24 squared, and then we replace our B with 10, so we have 10 squared. And now we solve. What's 24 squared? Use a calculator. You should get 576 plus, what's up, 10 squared? Again, use a calculator. 10 times 10 is 100. And we get c squared equals 576 plus 100. So we just add. We get 676. What's the last step? Take the square root. So we square root both sides. The square root of 676, let me do this on a calculator. We get 26. In this case, the units are kilometers, so we'll put kilometers. Does our answer make sense? Let's go ahead and check. Well, this side's 10, this side's 24. Could this side be 26? Yes, it has to be bigger than these two values because we got the hypotenuse. 26 is bigger than 24 and 10. We're good. So let's go ahead and answer the question. The question, we're not done. We have to find the perimeter. How do you find the perimeter? Add up all sides. So perimeter of the triangle is equal to 24 kilometers. Let's put the units at the end. So 24 kilometers plus 10 kilometers plus 26 kilometers. That gives us 26 plus 24, that's 50 plus 10 is 60. The perimeter here is 60 kilometers, and this is the final answer. Hope this helped, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Awesome. In this example, let's continue. We're asked to find the area of the triangle. Okay, so pause the video, try to solve this yourself. Remember, the area formula for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So pause the video, try solving it, and let's solve it together now. So the first thing I notice is that the 90 degree is here, which means that the side opposite is our hypotenuse. This is our C, so 20 is C. I'm going to call the 12 the A, and we're looking for our B. So we have to work backwards here. So it's a 90 degree triangle. We use Pythagorean Theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Let's plug in our C as 20. So 20 squared equals A squared, 12 squared, plus B squared. That's what we're looking for. So 20 squared is 400, and that's equal to 12 squared, which is 144, plus B squared. So in this case here, we're looking for one of the legs, which means that we have to put our numbers on the same side. How do we do that? Remember, we subtract 144 on both sides. We want to put our numbers with our numbers, and we'll leave B squared on the right side. So 144 minus 144 is 0, so we're left with just B squared. And 400 minus 144, we get 256. Okay. The last step would be to square root, because we're not looking for B squared, we're looking for B. So the square root of 256, we get 16, and the units here are in meters. Good. Does that make sense as an answer? Yes, it does, because we found one of the legs, 16, and that's smaller than the hypotenuse, which is 20. Remember, this side, the hypotenuse has to be the longest side. Good, so 16 makes sense. We're not done. We have to answer the question. Find the area. Let's write down the formula right away. The formula for the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Now that we use Pythagorean Theorem to find the base, we can answer this. So the base is 16, the height of the triangle is 12, and you divide it by 2. So using a calculator, 16 times 12, 192 divided by 2, you should get 96 meters squared. Area is always squared, that's our unit. So the answer is 96. Hope this video helps, and I'll see you in the next video.